Forget Silicon Valley. The future of AI might be sun-kissed and rum-soaked. Today on Strategy Talks, we delve into the bold vision of Lee Fook, who's determined to transform the Caribbean into an AI powerhouse, reshaping industries and lives in 2024 and beyond. Join me for Strategy Talks.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Morin-van.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be back with another episode of Strategy Talks. Today, I am talking strategically about AI, and I've got to tell you, as soon as I saw the guest that I'm about to bring up on stage speak in Suriname back in October, I knew I wanted him to come to us to talk to you about using AI strategically. You know, if you have not lived under a rock in the past year, you know that people use AI for all sorts of things. But a lot of people are just talking about prompts and, what to do, maybe research. But very few people are talking about how to use AI strategically. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, Leslie. How are you today?
Hi, Doreen. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks. Appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Leslie, and you should get familiar with Leslie, Leslie, let me just pull it up. For over two decades, Leslie Lee Fook has been a digital trailblazer in the Caribbean, using AI and advanced analytics to revolutionize businesses and governments. He envisions a data-driven future where the region's creativity fuels development, transforming it into a global hub for talent and expertise, much like India's roles in analytics. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But Leslie, you're in Trinidad, correct?
I'm the Caribbean in Trinidad. Yes.
I think you're my first guest from that area, which is pretty cool on Strategy Talks. We've
Fantastic.
had guests from Europe and Australia and South America, and I don't think I've had a guest from Africa yet. If you're listening and you know somebody you can introduce me to in Africa, I would love to have that continent as well. So how did you get into AI? When did you first start seeing it? How has
Oh,
it shaped your business and your thinking? And then we'll get into the strategic use of AI.
so how did I get into AI? Completely, I would say accidentally. If I went back a couple of years, even before that, I mean, I run a very small business. It's 20 of us in all. It's not a very big outfit. But in around 2010, we were being disrupted. There were contracts that we had for years that we were losing. Clients that we had on retainers, they were canceling their retainers, and we couldn't really figure out why. Now, if I even go back a little before that, I can't code, I can't program. I actually dropped out of high school, and I don't know what the US equivalent is, but I got a C in one exam, an O, which means I didn't learn anything in 2 years, and two X's, which means absent. I didn't even like bother to show up for the exams. So like data was something a little scary to me. But in
Mhm.
2010, I knew that you needed to use data to make better decisions. So I really set out on a journey, and I stumbled onto some things that absolutely changed my life. And what I realized is that the industry that we were in, it was shifting, and it was actually our partners that were shifting the industry. They were going direct to our clients, and they were cutting us out, and we didn't even know. And it was something called cloud, right? This strange thing. So back in
Ah,
2010, small businesses, small medium sized businesses, which is who we serve, they were first adopters of cloud. There was no big capital investments, and they were going directly to the tech giants, and they didn't really need us anymore. So when I saw that, like data is the thing that gave me that light bulb moment. And I went to my business partner and I said, look, like Jude, like in 5 years, our business is dead. but I think everybody is going to need this data thing someday. So I absolutely approached it from a customer's perspective. I didn't know anything about data. I knew I had to use it, and I saw what the power of data could be someday. So for a lot of small organizations, like whatever you do today, like one of the big mistakes I did is I fell in love with my product and I
Mm.
wasn't serving my customers. I didn't see my customers' needs shifting. So if you're a small business, like what you do today might change drastically in the next couple of years, and I think it will primarily because of AI. But I started on that data journey, and then by about 2018, I saw that AI was coming, and again, I approached it in the same way where I couldn't code, I still couldn't program, but I knew I had to use AI just to stay ahead, right?
Sure.
So I discovered this company in Boston, and they were doing something called automated machine learning, and it was fascinating. Basically, they were automating data scientists, and this is back around 2018, where when data scientists announced themselves as like the sexiest job in the world, right?
Yeah.
So I went up and I did some training at this company, and it was internal training that I was doing with the sales team. So they were like 30 salespeople and me, which I thought would be perfect because I'm very non-technical, but I was completely lost. And then by like a day and a half into the training program, a 5-day program, I was overhearing some people chatting at the water cooler, and these were the salespeople. And what I quickly realized is that the minimum to sell this thing was a master's in stats, which which wasn't me, which
Right.
generally isn't, yeah, like lots of small business owners. But on day 5, I just kind of stuck in. On day 5, they said go to this online data science competition platform called Kaggle, which attracts like the Netflixes of the world. And Netflix would put like a data set there, and
Yeah.
they would say it's $1 million bounty for the data scientist who produces the best work. So best data science in the world go there. And I go to Kaggle, I grab a data set, I put it into the platform, I hit this big start button, and I come back in 30 minutes. And I put the results into back into Kaggle. And I was the 51st best data scientist in the world because I could click start pretty much, right? And that's when I realized that even the most complicated jobs someday it will be automated. And that was a huge aha moment for me.
Wow. Let's just think about
Yeah,
that. So all you had to do was find the right data set or find a data set, put
yeah.
it in, hit start, and then put it back in, and you were 51st in the world
In the
on
world.
solving that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
51st.
incredible.
Yeah. And
That's incredible.
that's been around since about 2013 is when they first started that company. So I knew that there could be easier ways, because if you look at where everybody is today, everybody's trying to figure out, like, how do I learn AI? How do I learn to prompt? How do I learn to do these things? When when our journey has kind of crossed that a long time. So after that, like, I came back home, we were training actuaries across the entire Caribbean. It was fun. Like, I love living in the Caribbean. And then the whole world went on lockdown, and you know what happened. And
Yeah.
at that point in time, my performance on my team, they just completely barreled out. And I had three choices at that time. One, I could literally, and I thought about this a couple times. I could fire everybody. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, but I know a lot of small business owners out there. They probably thought the same. So I know I'm not crazy. The other thing that I could do is I could just kick and scream and shout at people and force them to work, which is what I found myself doing on Zoom all the time. I was like, we'd have stand up calls. People hated the stand up calls. And then the third thing I could do is just try to find better ways for them to work. Now, fortunately, we had some background in AI. So I started to build little AI. I started to acquire little AIs that were good at one task. So I would build an AI that could do a job description. I would build an AI that could respond to emails. I would build an AI, and then I gave it to my team, and
So wait a
performance.
second. You're
Yeah.
building the AIs at this point,
Yeah, because I remember I already had that experience. So when everybody's on lockdown, and this was way before ChatGPT,
right?
we
You were
started to
building
build
AIs.
AI just to do one task. Now, at the same time, we were growing up as a company. So we were creating processes and SOPs for pretty much everything. And now that we had processes and SOPs, and we had all the individual tasks in a process, we just connected the AI together. and we started to create fully autonomous processes. I'll give you some numbers on what we did.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
ever you ever done any like performance training or time management training? Right.
Yeah,
So typically they do a technique inside there where they say a knowledge worker works for 8 hours, you work for 8 hours a day. So break up your 8 hours into 1 hour blocks, and therefore you do 8 tasks a day. So the
yeah.
typical knowledge worker, 8 tasks a day, that's 9,600 tasks a year. That process that we followed, we basically we now automated 10,000 tasks a day. That's the work of an individual for an entire year. We do that every single day with AI. So from a strategic perspective, we were able to 18x our workforce without a dollar in payroll.
And without adding people.
Nobody.
Right.
There's
Nobody.
nobody. Yeah, there's nobody. We just took our processes, automated those things. So we inadvertently we created a robot army, and
That's
as the work.
actually that is when I heard you speak in Suriname. That was the point when you said we created a robot army, is when I was like, wait, what did you just say? How many hours did you save? What are you doing every day? That's what
Yeah.
really got me. And if you're watching this or you're listening to this podcast, Leslie, those numbers are incredible. So you set up your tasks, you have your automations, you have already built the AIs, and then all you're doing is connecting them, and 10,000
Mhm.
hours a day is done, which is more than equivalent of what one person could do per year.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But we it's accidental, right? We were just sort of putting one foot in front of the other. As a problem came, we solved it. We created a new AI to do it. But the problem is that we started to create so much AI that my team became overwhelmed. They're like, Leslie, this is great. 5 is enough, 6 is enough, 7 enough, but you're kind of overdoing it now. So different systems, different platforms. And we started to what we ended up doing is putting basically all these, because we built during lockdown over 200 different AI. We put all the AI into one particular place. So this is a journey that you guys will go on as well. Is that you realize that AI is a lot more than just ChatGPT.
Right.
That AI can do lots of different things, and AI is where it is right now. It's very narrow. It's only good at one particular task. So you'll have to acquire lots and lots and lots of AI, and your team will be overwhelmed soon enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for those of you who are watching this or listening, I've seen some posts on LinkedIn about people saying that, they built their GPT, or, you can get check out. And this is what Leslie's talking about, right? So people are building their own AIs, and now they're making it available to other people to use, which is one of the
Mhm.
things that people do. And I also love the fact that you're really talking about a lot of this as data driven, not necessarily text driven. Because a lot of, marketers, of course, a lot
Mhm.
of what we do is create content. So it's images and it's content. But you're also talking about numbers, right? Doing crunching numbers and analysis and those kind of things. So
Mhm.
I think that we need to look beyond what's right in front of us or what people are feeding us, especially those of us who are here on LinkedIn. Use it for prompts, or use it, use AI to help you rewrite something. It is so much more than that. And I think once you
Mhm.
get that, your mind's going to be blown, like mine was when I was talking to Leslie. And I think that's the aha. That's what I want you to get out of everything out of this today's talk. That's why want everybody to meet Leslie, is that Leslie's talking about something that probably comes to us in a couple of years. I don't know how fast we'll get to where you are, Leslie.
Well, I'll tell you. So it's completely accidental. This wasn't the master plan or anything. It's just we kept putting one foot in front of the other. But I'll give an example of this. I
Yeah,
use this as a milestone.
yeah,
So everybody today is talking about how do I prompt, how do I do these things, and most people, for example, would you want to write a book someday about
yeah.
your journey? Yeah. How long do you think that'll take you, even with AI today?
3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
dedicated time.
Yeah. In April of 2021, I wrote 3 books. because we already started to develop all the AI, we started to create all the processes. Because writing a book is the same process over and over and over and over. So 2021 is this is where I already started that process journey and the automation integrations and like all of that cool stuff. So today, we've infused AI across our entire business. So I'll give you an example. From a strategic perspective, our quarterly reviews, one of the questions that are on our quarterly reviews now is, how much AI do you use on a daily basis? My entire staff, my entire team is expected to use AI, and at least 50% of what they do, at least 50%. Um, and it's been transformative because every single department, every single level in the organization, whether you're big, whether you're small, there's opportunities for AI. It's a lot more than just text and graphics.
So give examples. You told us about going to Boston and being part of the sales team and
So,
learning. So sales,
well, everything. So I'll give you your audio went a little low on me just now, so I didn't quite hear you. But what we did is as we started to build all our AI, we started to classify it so people could find it a little easier. So we built out AI for sales, marketing, finance, operations, IT, HR, risk, health and safety, legal. Like think about any department that exists in an organization. Because as a small entity, a small company, I end up being HR today, I end up being finance tomorrow, I end up being legal the day after. So all of those frameworks, when we research them and we built out stuff, and we also collaborate with the partners now. So is anybody who's in a particular vertical and interested, let me know. I'd love to work with you guys. But we built out firstly a departmental level thing based on our own frameworks, based on our processes. But the journey I'm on right now is I found like so I don't know what bucket would you put yourself in? Entrepreneur, I assume.
entrepreneurial. I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, small business owner, entrepreneur. Yeah,
Small business owners, entrepreneurs, they have the same exact problems across the board, right? Limited resources. They have to do everything. So like you get access to all of these operations things, these HR things, these IT things. So I had a colleague, I showed it to him, and he said it was like hiring 100 people. It was like hiring 100 staff without paying anybody. And we're also now doing it on the vertical side of things. So I'm building it out for banking, for insurance, for finance, for um, like every single vertical, because across all organizations, there's similarities. Is it going to cover everything?
no,
No, but we'll probably do about 80% of the task, and that's why I'm so keen on like transforming the region, because if you're just a consumer of AI today, then really your value proposition goes away when they start automating a lot of these tasks.
right. So you need to be able to use it. Now, interestingly
Absolutely.
enough, how big is your team? You said when you,
Oh, my team is tiny.
yeah,
So my entire company is 20. My core team is 10 people.
and they're doing all this work,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have
Well, you
everything.
see, this is it, right? So I had a meeting with a very large organization the other day, and the CFO said, Leslie, how big is your team? I said, well, frankly, that's a wrong question. You need to ask me how much AI do I have, right? And I think that's going to be the conversation moving forward.
And they're your AIs. So let's talk
Yeah, they
about
might.
that for a minute. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. So you've developed these AIs, they're
Yes.
yours, right?
Yes.
Are you selling the use of them? Are you creating packages for people? Are you saying, hey, everybody should build one? Are you teaching how people can build them? Let's
So
talk about that,
I,
because
I
if I'm
started.
sitting
Yeah.
here and I
Yeah.
want what you have, how do I get what you have?
Yeah. I started. Well, I've been teaching a long time. In terms of analytics and data and all these things. That's really. I'll tell you how I ended up teaching. Right. I actually dropped out of school. And the main reason for that is the stuff that I learned at school wasn't relevant in the real world. Right. So how I started teaching is I really had to develop the market, because analytics was a brand new thing back in 2010. Nobody's really talking about it. So I was creating a market for myself, to be honest. And in teaching it, I learned to be very pragmatic in how we develop the programs, what people were learning. So in a 2-day analytics program, you'd solve $1 million problem in the organization. You're not learning how to build bar charts and line graphs and stuff. You solve a real problem. So we took that same approach with AI. And as I started to go out to market, people asked that same question. They wanted to know, like, Leslie, I'd love to learn to use AI, but how can I just get your stuff and just apply it right now? So as we started to venture off to the tail end of last year, we started to develop SaaS, and I hope to launch the first AI SaaS in the territory. Very excited about it. But we've done exactly what we talked about. So we took all of our AI, all our processes, all our methodologies, all of our frameworks, and all of our tools, and we put it into one single place, into one single hub, where it's broken out by department. So you go in, you click on HR, and you could write a JD, you could write an acceptance letter, you could do a scoring criteria for an interview, right? Just in 2 words, without so you can use AI now without even having to learn AI. And that's something
Wow.
that nobody else is talking about, right? Everybody is like, I've taken literally every AI course out there. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and everybody's like, learn AI, learn AI, learn AI. When the reality is, you don't need to learn AI anymore to use it.
Right. You just need to
So
know to get the right AI to for the right job, correct?
yeah, that's pretty much it. But that journey for most other people would be acquisition, acquisition, or even build, even if you build it internally.
Yeah.
Acquisition, build, acquisition. And it will take you a little while to get there.
Yeah. Wow, that's a fascinating journey. So if somebody's watching, somebody is for me, it just it just opened up my world on what's going to happen. I am connected to several what I call visionaries on LinkedIn and online of people who are thinking about AI a very different way than most people are, same at Web3. And you're one of those people. As soon as I heard you
For sure.
talk, I'm like, he's not speaking about it as everybody else is. So if people want to connect with you, Leslie, where are you most active? How can they find about
Oh,
out about the tool?
yeah, LinkedIn is the best place. We haven't launched a tool yet. But if you guys want a sneak peek, this is just for your audience, please don't share it because we haven't gone public with it yet. It's the Incus Hub, INCUS hub.com. And you guys should jump in there. And if you do, just leave some feedback on the roadmap. I'd love to hear from you guys. But our launch should be at the end of next month,
All right,
just
that's
just
super
after
super.
Trinidad, just
That
after
is so
Trinidad Carnival.
exciting. Okay, after the carnival. I love it. So I have one more question from you. In the
Yeah,
bio that you sent me, you made this statement, right?
yeah,
It says Leslie believes that we all someday will become data citizens. He hopes to tap into the deeply creative nature of our Caribbean people so we can foster development in a community that's highly sought after for its talent and expertise, transforming into the India for analytics. Now, that India for Analytics vision is inspiring, but what specific milestones or collaborations do you see happening, say, in the next year to bring this closer to reality? And how can international partners contribute? So I'm assuming that your tool is at the foreground of that, but how can international partners contribute to this and to
yeah.
this vision?
So I love that. It's a terrific question. And maybe I'll go next way around. I'll go like, what could we contribute as a region? Because the Caribbean isn't typically associated with being high tech, right? It's white sand, blue waters, and that's what people think about the Caribbean. But we've been generally short of resources. We've been able to have to figure things out. We've been able to have to do more with less. And that's really the narrative of the Caribbean. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. Because what's really instilled into every single Caribbean citizen is creativity.
Hmm.
Like, you just put us in a room with a problem and we figure out that problem, no matter what tools we have. And that's really what we bring to the table. So I think collaborating with international partners that may be a little better resource, may have access to better tools, infrastructure, etc. And we bring that creativity where we bring a unique perspective to a problem. Because ultimately creativity is a fundamental pillar to great decision making. And I think decision making is really what strategy is about, right? So that is, I think, how we can collaborate a little closer.
I love that. And, just for those of you who are listening, I think that as a marketer, as a small business owner, there's certainly unique challenges to being on an island. Correct, Leslie? I mean, it's a life that some of us are born into, some of us choose to live on an island. And I remember, this is a funny sort of story, but when I first started out in my career, I had a friend who lived on Cyprus, and we were talking about Facebook advertising, and she had trouble with her targeting because the targeting for Cyprus
Well,
was such a small little piece. And I remember having that conversation with her about island life, and it's so different. So it's exciting to see that you don't just talk about Trinidad or Trinidad and Tobago, but you're saying the Caribbean, and the creativity, I think, is so spot on. You have to be creative to get out into the world, right? So I love that. I love that analogy, and I love what you said about that. So if you are watching, if you're listening to this podcast and you are inspired, connect with Leslie on LinkedIn. He has a SaaS tool coming out after Carnival, as he said, which is very, very exciting. Leslie, where are you speaking next? Just in case people are wanting to see you live. You mentioned Miami, is that correct?
so Miami's in a couple months. I'm always all over the Caribbean. I do a lot of speaking. And likewise, if you guys have an opportunity to speak on AI somewhere, happy to learn a little more about it. But Miami is the next international one. But I'm in Trinidad next 2 weeks, Jamaica. I have an event in Antigua, Barbados, Suriname. I'll see you in Suriname. But all around the Caribbean, because the Caribbean is really where my heart is. I'll mention
That's
that I used to live in the UK. And I went to the UK with very, very little. And, within 2 years of working in the UK, I was making, at that time, Tony Blair was the prime minister. I was making twice Tony Blair's salary. And for me, that's a testament of hard work and creativity. And that's kind of what's instilled in the DNA of the Caribbean people. But it wasn't enough to keep me because I love living in the Caribbean. And I am here and I came back intentionally. And that's why I really want to make the place better, because I know you just showed me outside it's snowing, right? But it's always, for the most part, sunny days here, for the most part, right? It's always about 32 degrees centigrade, like year round. Like, who wouldn't want to live here? And if you guys want to pop down, I recommend Suriname, and we should all go to John Luke's marketing conference next year or later on this year. But the Caribbean is a beautiful place, and I want to invite you guys down as well.
No, absolutely. And I love that you say that. I know that you speak highly of your country, and fascinated. I know my friend Sarah Monroe, who was
Mm,
also in Suriname with us. She's been to Trinidad, I believe.
yeah.
And so, yeah, who knows what's coming up? I think we were talking about maybe doing a conference somewhere on one of the Curacao. We'll talk about that behind the
Done.
scenes. But for
Done.
now, everybody who's listening, if this has inspired you to dive a little bit deeper into AI, or to think a little bit broader, which is really the point of having Leslie on, I wanted you all to hear what I heard when I sat in the room and when Leslie showed us a tool that did some incredible strategic thinking for us, which is really what I'm hoping that new tool that you're coming out with. So if you're listening to this later in the year, there'll be a link in the show notes to go test it out. If you're listening to this live or on the replay this week, you'll have to wait till after Carnival. Leslie, thank you so much once again for being here with me
A
today.
pleasure.
And if you have any questions for Leslie, be sure to reach out. Thank you again, everybody, for listening to Strategy Talks. I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.